This week on Opecast, we're going to talk about how dinosaurs are going to become extinct once again, the Joker's returning to St. Louis, and we'll also dive into STL Startup Week and also how the district in Chesterfield has come into life.
Yeah, are you starting us off or?
Yeah, I'm going to start us off. I'm going to start this one off with dinosaurs. Now, if you didn't know that they went extinct and they came back recently to the St. Louis Zoo over the last few years, well, they're going to go extinct one final time. And that's because the St. Louis Zoo is going to open up Destination Discovery in 2026. Now, this is going to be a $40 million project, and what I really like about it is it's going to be very immersive. So the full 2.8 acres of that part of the zoo, they're going to have underground tunnels dug by prairie dogs. You can splash alongside flamingos, which will be very interesting. You can look up at overhead tunnels and walk through an aviary. Now, what's going to be very modern about this place is when you walk inside of the Welcome Center, it's going to have like very interactive art. It's going to have augmented reality that's going to change throughout the seasons. And so, like I said, dinosaurs, at least this time, we've been warned that they're going to go away the first week of November. But for more information on that, you can go to stlzoo.org.
I'm confused. Is it like people dressed in costumes as dinosaurs or like animatronic things or like
Oh, so the animatronic dinosaurs will be going away, which they're really cool. Like,
so is that what it is?
No, that's the old news. The new news.
Then what's happening?
So the new news is that Destination Discovery. So that's going to be, they're going to have like, it's really made with every guest in mind. So what I read was like, they want it for like to be very interactive with kids. It doesn't matter, what their physical disabilities are. It just looks really cool. But yeah, and then you can go through like slides, you can go through tunnels, so you can be like face to face with animals that like right now you're like a big ditch and 6 feet, 7 feet away.
So dinosaurs have nothing to do with any of this.
No, I really.
Oh my God! Then why were you even mentioning dinosaurs?
I really like the Dinosaurus exhibit. It was really cool. Like it was like as if, you know what they should do? They should put that in the science
petition
center.
To keep the dinosaurs around.
Put it in the science center.
Yeah.
Because right now the one in the dinosaur.
Don't they have those though?
It's missing its head right now.
What?
Yeah. So sustainability.
But, yeah. What else are they gonna do with them?
I don't know. That is a good question.
Let's DM them about that.
What happens with these things?
It's called recycling, you guys. We have a terrible recycling program in St. Louis, so let's do something right.
Yeah. Or just put them in like, all the parks in the city. But they like move and they make noise.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Until the first week of November. And then they are extinct again until they come back to life. But it doesn't matter because in 2026, wow, that's 3 years from now.
What's happening in 2026? I'm on the edge of my seat.
Destination Discovery. And for more information on that, stlzoo.org. Because then even after that, they're going to have the safari opening like 2 years after that. Have you seen that?
This is a this weekend podcast. This isn't a 2 years from now podcast.
We better make it 3 years.
What's happening?
Wait, no, this is in the future.
What is?
Destination Discovery. That's the new to the Loo-ish. Newish to the Loo. The newish thing is that the newish thing, guys. You're talking about the Joker.
Okay, can I move? Let's just go on to that, and then you guys just go to the web. Just go to stlzoo.org, and you'll be able to know what's happening this weekend. Anyway,
next year.
Yeah, next year probably. Or just DM Brad and he'll let you know what's going on with the dinosaurs because I have no idea.
Let us know in the comments if you know what happened to them. Just let us know. We're actually concerned with all the hard work the artists put into those dinosaurs. We're just concerned. Okay, like we would actually take one on the set, maybe 2 or 3.
I would love that.
Same. So, but yeah,
a mascot of sorts.
Yes.
Anyway.
Mess. I can even come. Yeah. So what do you have? You got something else new?
I haven't been to Six Flags in many moons.
In 6 years.
I want to go in more than 6 years, honestly, in many moons. I want to go to Fright Fest so bad. And then I'll probably see this new ride that they have opening up called the Joker Carnival of Chaos. It spins and it flings around and it does everything that I don't want to be a part of. But a lot of people do like that kind of stuff. It's 17 stories high and it is the tallest pendulum in the entire world. Oh gosh, it spins and it soars 172 feet in the air. So what I imagine it does, it goes like this and then it also like goes like this.
That's what.
Is that what you imagined?
Yeah, I picture. They have a ride called like Excalibur that like I feel like is the same, but I think this one's like taller.
Yeah.
It's probably like
because it says the tallest pendulum in the world.
What if the other one's like 171 feet and this is?
And it uses the
172?
word whips, like it whips the riders back. I don't want to be whipped anywhere. You know what I mean? That sounds
bad, painful. Well, like, and the older I get, I can't do that. Like now I understand. So when I was a kid, we used to go to Six Flags like every other week, and like now I understand why my mom was like, oh no, I just like hanging out. And it's like when I go, like I get dizzy, I get headaches, and I feel hungover, but like in the worst way.
I just feel like when I'm going on a roller coaster, I feel like this is how I die. This is how I die. And like my stomach you know what I mean? Like my stomach like stops and I'm like, oh my God.
And you're just like, why did I just do that to myself?
Yeah, and it's just like not fun. But you know what I am gonna do is I'm gonna wait. They're so smart with this because I'm gonna wait in line with my friends that do want to ride this because the line, you're in the Joker's like fun house. So while you're waiting in line, you're actually still like you're having a good time because you're going through Joker's fun house. It's an immersive trip too, whatever that means. Like I don't know if you're getting like massages or anything before you get whipped
from the Joker's. Just
I don't know.
Well, it's like,
I don't know. I guess we're just gonna have to find out
in 2024 because that's next year. Oh my God, that is next year.
Oh, why do you have so many things for next year on the agenda?
The future. You know, we got plan for. We got to have people plan.
Well, you must be 52 inches taller or inches taller to ride. How tall? How many inches is that? How many feet is that?
I think like
12, 24, 36, 48. 4 feet.
4 foot 4.
Okay, I'm good. If I wanted to ride it and get whipped, I could.
Just like,
if I want to get massaged and whipped, I have that option to do so because I'm tall enough.
It just sounds like a very dizzy ride, but there are a lot of people that love those kind of rides.
They sure do.
Like I like I'm at the age of the
Kitty,
water park.
do you?
No.
She says no.
Nah.
I mean, it's up some people's alleys though. So if that's up your alley and you're ready to get whipped at 17 stories high, go to sixflags.com/St. Louis to learn more.
Yeah. That ride, actually, by the time this episode comes out, I'm going to have a Six Flags season pass.
You are?
Yeah, I haven't had one in like 7 years, but it's like really cheap right now. I think it's like $40, $50, and you can go the rest of this year into next year. And now they charge you for the water park that used to be free. And like,
oh my God.
And like, I need to show more love out there in Eureka. And so give me a reason to go to Eureka.
I mean, yeah.
Shout out to Eureka.
Yeah.
Six Flags Eureka.
To our fans in Eureka.
Yeah.
Is Fright Fest still cool?
Like, yeah, it's cool. It depends. What do you like? Do you want to get like scared? You know, scary stuff. The haunted house and
I'm just trying to get a turkey leg.
Oh, a turkey. Yeah. And get up on the thing that makes you throw it off. Oh God. They probably walk around with like sand. You know, that wasn't that. Well, yeah. Anyways, you know what? Someone that came up with this concept had the startup idea to start up making these very cool rides, right? And
King of transitions.
The king of transitions. But that's like very true. Someone's like, you know what? I'm going to make rides that are 172 feet tall. It's going to spin and make people sick. But guess what? We have St. Louis Startup Week coming here September 18th through 22nd. Now, our friends over at TechArtista are hosting their 3rd annual STL Startup Week. It's a 5-day celebration, and it's very much focused on building that community and people having that person they can turn to. Because a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you don't know who to ask. You ask Google, you ask ChatGPT, and you're like, this is very unreliable or it doesn't pertain to St. Louis. So this event is all about really building that community. Now, attendees will be able to experience talks, panel discussions, networking, and more. And what's really cool, they're going to host events all over the city. So we're talking the Cortex, which is still a newer, hotter spot. Heydays, Keisha over there is doing an amazing job. Trust Downtown, if you haven't been there, a beautiful spot. But previous years have inspired hundreds of individuals to discover their potential as entrepreneurs, innovators, and change makers, which is really cool because people don't realize like that, entrepreneurs, right? We go to farmers markets. All those people had to take that leap of faith into doing that. Now we have hundreds of people at these, vendors at these farmers markets, but also there's people in tech. Now, most of these events are going to be free to attend, but few will require a cover, and guests must register ahead of time. So they can learn more about that at stlouisstartupweek.com. Are you going to be attending?
I bet there's like some free pens and koozies and stuff there, and I do love little free trinkets.
We got to get those.
So maybe,
Beebs, I know you're watching. I know you're listening. We're gonna put those little trinkets and things in there. And actually, we'll talk about that because I can make that happen. I can put.
Oh yeah, you're the king of merch and transitions. But can I do the transition? I have a good one.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Go. I mean, STL Startups. Wait, do you have to live in St. Louis to attend this? No.
That's a really good question. I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe so. I think it's just you got to be a good person.
Oh.
And pre-register.
Well, good people need places to live. And one of those places that people might live is in Chesterfield. And we've got new restaurants coming to Chesterfield in a place called The District. Did you like that? Was that good?
I like that.
Thank you so much. I think The District is such a cool name. Anyway, we've got Four Hands Brewery as well as High Point. Oh my God. So exciting. And I think they're like doing like a little merge situation. Which is amazing because they're going to like pair different beers with different food items from High Point because I love pairings. You know what I mean? They did it just for me. No, I'm just kidding. Four Hands is going to have 25 beers on tap, and High Point's going to have their daily specials. Everybody loves their daily specials. They're so crazy. They're like, here's a taco, but it's a burger inside, but also plot twist. There's Cheetos on top. It's wild. And they're going to be open from 11 a.m. to midnight. I'm always looking for places that are open late at night.
In Chesterfield?
Well, no, but the people that live there, there's got to be people just like me.
Yeah.
That need snacks at nighttime,
Well, and it's like they have the concerts there too. Well, that does make sense.
Yeah.
Out there. They have the main event. They have the Top Golf.
They know what they're doing. That's genius.
Yeah, they just need beer and food now. So.
Exactly. So they're going to have beer tastings, events, festivals, live music, all the things. And now you have your beer and your burgers and Cheeto tacos.
Yeah, the next time I'm there, there's a story. So
What?
when former wrestler, he's a wrestler, I guess now. Chris Jericho. Have you ever heard that name? I'll have to show you.
Yeah.
Like if you saw the video, well, I was talking to him, and his dad played for the Blues back in the day, so he grew up in Chesterfield, and he was like, he's like, is that place still around? Have you ever partied in Chesterfield? And I had to lie to him. Well, I said the place is still around, but I lied and said I partied in Chesterfield. But now I have a reason to party because of Four Hands.
And open till midnight.
And it's open to midnight, so I'm going to have to take Chris Jericho there the next time he's in town.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you that clip.
And if you need more information, go to fourhandsbrewery.com. Fourhandsbrewery.com. Let me say it with confidence. Mm-hmm. Do you have any more questions?
No, I don't. That was a really, really good description.
I know.
I think we just got to go experience it. I mean, I'm just excited to see what Chef Adam puts together.
I know. He's such a genius.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. He's a good guy. Good person to talk to. He does everything with passion and love. And I think, some people aren't receptive of it, but I think 99% of people are. Because when you see it and you're like, okay, cool. I like that. With STL Startup Week being next week, and I know people are going to be coming into town and they're curious on where they need to eat at. So we actually brought on Matt Menietti, who is part of the TechArtista Foundation and overseeing everything that's going on with STL Startup Week. So check out his Foodie Friday. It's Foodie Friday, and I'm here today with Matt Menietti of TechArtista and STL Startup Week. And so whenever you're looking for a place to relax and have a drink, where are you going?
Lots of places these days, but probably I'm going to Retreat Gastropub. So Tim Wiggins, he's guy behind Lazy Tiger, Yellow Belly, great cocktails. Just love the vibe there. I'm going to Fraser's, great bar program. Love the drinks that they have there. Just really nice neighborhood vibe. Going to Trust, so part of TechArtista family. Great place downtown if you're staying for an event or got a hotel downtown watching a game.
What about for a night out? What about date night?
Date night, going to probably Louis. So Louis' great place in kind of Demond, so that's a place my wife and I like to go to. Also probably going back to Fraser's for date night. Hagia Sophia, great Greek food down in our kind of neck of the woods, St. Louis Hills and Luna Park. All great options, and then really any place on the hill. Canetto's, House of Pasta, Amaghetti's, Antonino's, great Italian food.
And then how can people follow you?
They can follow me on Twitter at Matt Menietti, and Instagram is also at Matt Menietti.
And for a full list of everything Matt just said, make sure to follow at Opecast the Pod, and this will be on STL Bucket List on Friday. As you head into the weekend, you're probably looking for something to do with your local besties, so we brought on ours. Amber, how are you doing this week?
Pretty good. Long week, but we're doing good.
Yeah, so what do you have for us? Because last week was all about the arts. What about this week?
It was very art heavy last week, but this week we have Frizz Fest in Tower Grove Park, the Great Balloon Race in Forest Park, which is always a huge event every year, the Kirkwood Green Tree Festival, Pyromania at Cedar Lake Cellars, which is a huge fireworks show, and then the Mimosa Fest at the Armory, which I'm excited about because I love mimosas.
Yeah, there's a lot of good events there. So hopefully the balloon race and the Pyromania, they're not going to collide at all. I would hope not. Like different times of the day.
Different times of the day, probably, and very different locations.
Okay. Oh, perfect. And I remember being a kid and you just like would be in your backyard and you would automatically like just see, or all of a sudden just start seeing the balloons. Like I remember that. And now as an adult, I like plan like, okay, I got to be in this part of town. I got to be on this rooftop. So,
Yeah.
So you're going to go to Mimosa Fest at the Armory?
Yeah, that's the plan. It looks like it's going to be fun. So the Armory is always a good time too.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Armory. And so for everyone, if you're looking for the full list, check out at Local Bestie on Instagram or at Oakcast the Pod for everything that we discussed on this week. So Amber, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Opecast, it's Brad and STL, and today I'm here with Matt Menietti, the Executive Director of the TechArtista Foundation, and as well as the lead organizer of STL Startup Week. So we're getting close to that, so I'm glad to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about Startup. Well, actually, before we get into Startup Week, let's talk about yourself, how you got involved, because I don't know if many people realize how many startups come out of St. Louis, how many big corporations we have. Yeah. And it's like, sometimes it takes us believing in those up and coming startups that'll lead to that next, big corporation in town that drives the economy. And so how did you, end up in St. Louis? What's your upbringing like?
Yeah. So moved to St. Louis in the summer of 2009, came here for a year of AmeriCorps. A lot of people don't know what AmeriCorps is. It's kind of like the Peace Corps, but they put you somewhere domestically. So you're able to have a little bit of choice in where you serve for that year. So I ended up working for an after school program called America Scores that we did soccer programming, we did creative writing programming. So I did communications and fundraising for that organization. Lived kind of north of the Central West End, North St. Louis, and just fell in love with the city. Loved all the got to know a lot of the teachers and the schools that we work with in the education program, and just met a lot of other people in the nonprofit sector who believed in this kind of potential of St. Louis, that we were kind of on a city sitting in a moment of time that there was a lot of challenges facing the city, which still exists today, but that there was enough resources, enough smart people that cared about the city to kind of see it blossom into its kind of next generation. And so I thought there's space for me here in a way that maybe there wouldn't be in a much larger city like a Chicago or a DC.
Because that was around the recession. You said 2009, right?
2009, yeah. So,
or the last recession.
I graduated from the University of Iowa with an engineering degree, so it's not like I didn't have a degree that was marketable. Engineers, typically, they can find jobs pretty quickly. Yep. But I was looking for something that utilized some of my systems thinking engineering skills to make a difference. And so that looked differently than some of my peers who were getting jobs at, Motorola or Boeing or things like that. And so, but yeah, I think it was difficult for some people in that sort of generation of young people that were looking to get jobs. So AmeriCorps, a lot of these gap year programs were becoming more popular as people sort of figured out what they really wanted to do and could find jobs. And yeah, I wasn't, I was given a living stipend, but part of that was, it was so important to the program so that you sort of lived within your means, but also got to experience what it's like being in poverty. Now, you're not able to recreate it one-to-one, but you're able to sort of live within your means and understand that there's lots of families that live well below the poverty line, multi-generational families, just trying to just scrape by in this not just city, but just in America in general. And so for you to really understand it, but also live it, gives you a lot of perspective on like all the stuff that we complain about, just like, oh, my cell phone's not working. Guess what? You have a working car, you have air conditioning in the summer, you have a lot of things that a lot of people don't. So that I think that perspective was really helpful for me to get during that year in AmeriCorps.
How did that help shape your next journey in your career, in the sense of, you're seeing how these people are living? Like, for example, I see people at the bus stop when it's raining, and it's like, sometimes I want to give them a ride, but obviously I'm going in a completely opposite direction. But it makes me think of like, okay, I'm fortunate. I'm complaining about the really bad potholes in the city, but it's like I'm at least able to be in a situation. And within my family, there were when I was a kid, there were times where we caught the bus, But how did those, being there, living right there at that poverty line, how did that help shape, your mindset over the next few years and into your next role in your career?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think two things that come to mind right now are, one, on just like a sense of gratitude, right? That it's not to say that we can't complain about issues that we have in our lives, the challenges that we face, whether they personal or professional, but that we're blessed with a lot of things. And I was blessed, and I have been in my life, to have a beautiful wife, new son, family that supports us just unconditionally, and for that to just give you a sense of purpose, and also just that hey, you have a lot of things. You've been provided a lot of things in life. And the second piece is really that a lot of us have faced that, where they're getting off exit of a highway and they see someone who is unhoused looking, asking for $1 to help with bus or a sandwich or something like that. And you feel kind of powerless. Like, how can I help? Or there's a sense of distrust. Like, how do I know that my money is going to further this person's, just, make them feel better. Right. And so I think working with a lot of these organizations, whether they be AmeriCorps, St. Patrick's Center, just local nonprofits, you realize that like, you can just start by smiling and saying hi to someone, and that makes so much difference in their lives. But you also have an appreciation for some of these macro levels, like homelessness, like philanthropy, like just systematic racism in the city. And so, but it gives you access to like, hey, if I can, and it may sound cliche, but like I can make a difference in one person's life, and not to be bogged down with all the different things that we can't do societally, politically, all these things that seem much larger than ourselves. And so that was, I'll never forget that experience with AmeriCorps. And I've met some just amazing people through the program.
I think it's like you said, when you get off at you're getting off the highway and you see that person that's unhoused just standing there. And it's like, sometimes you don't have any money, you don't have any food. And it's just like, just giving them a head nod, like just humanizing them, because they are human. And I think I heard, it was on a different podcast here in St. Louis. I think it was Meet St. Louis with Alexis Zotos. Yep. She had Bridge Bread, the owner or founder of that. And he said, it's like a lot of the unhoused individuals, it's like they're going through ordinary crisis here in St. Louis, or just in life, ordinary crisis without that support system. And, a lot of us in life, we have different things that come up, and maybe we have that support system that has helped us get through that. And so it's, I think if you're listening to this, just, let's all work to at least do better, to humanize these individuals, because you just never know when that could be you. We all fall on tough times. But so recently, within the last year or two, you got involved with the TechArtista Foundation. Now, how did that happen?
Yeah, so I've known Chris Holt, who's CEO of TechArtista, the for-profit and network of spaces, many years ago, just through being active in the St. Louis startup ecosystem. So I've worked for a lot of different venture capital groups, economic development organizations, mentoring organizations, all of which support entrepreneurs. So I really love helping entrepreneurs. I love the way they think. I love just how new and fresh, a lot of just the way of thinking is, and that we're all kind of looking for, there's a sense of just gravitas around each of them, whether they're starting their own nonprofit, whether they're starting a podcast, whatever. I like people that are starting something, and I gravitate to that energy a lot. So that has sort of led me that sort of thread career-wise to work for these organizations where I get to help lots of entrepreneurs develop their companies and ideas. And so TechArtista is a great platform for that. Obviously, you have so many different members that have different types of companies, whether they be creative or legal companies or marketing and everything like that. And so, when Chris started talking to me about his vision for the foundation, and my background with nonprofit management seemed to be stars sort of aligned with just sort of a lot of respect for what he had built from a community, as well as all the facilities here. You've got 3, awesome spaces here in addition to the Grove space, the studios, the artist studios. We can talk more about that later.
Which we gotta plug. Shout out to TechArtista on this one. Yeah, that's where we're recording this, and they believe in us artists and entrepreneurs, and shout out. All right. But the 3 locations, just being able to be a member, and you can go to University City, the beautiful Trust downtown, right by the stadium, and then obviously here.
Yeah. So we just developed a good relationship, and then started to talk a little bit about what we wanted to accomplish with the foundation, things that the for-profit had already started. The artist residency, and there's such a commitment to art and artists here in terms of see it in the murals, you see it in the membership, you see it in so many different places. So how can we amplify that even more by giving them space, materials, just sort of a platform to kind of ramp up what is it's being an artist, being an entrepreneur is hard. How do you sell your art? How do you get started? Just finding space. How do you connect with people that are going to buy your product? These are all things that are common to entrepreneurs, but they're unique to artists. So that's been a world. I don't have a lot of background in the art community. I have a lot of friends that have worked for lots of different well-respected arts organizations, and I've always been drawn to that, just the skill and the vision of specifically visual artists in town that are able to make a living and also just say something with their art. That's always been something that spoke to me of hey, there's a deeper message here in addition to how beautiful it looks, or whatever you put into your heart and soul into something that turns into a beautiful piece. So that's how I got involved. I've always been involved with a lot of these sort of community events, whether they be Startup Week, Startup Connection, serving as a volunteer. There's been a lot of friendships I've developed with people that have worked for lots of different, we kind of jump around sometimes to different organizations and in different roles. But there's a sense of camaraderie there that, people do care. And that I do, in addition to being drawn to entrepreneurs and their energy, it's I want to be surrounded by people that give a shit. And whether that be about making St. Louis a better place or just helping small businesses thrive here.
And it's inspiring too. Just I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and I was telling her about someone I was talking to and their next endeavor and what they're doing. And she's like, wow, that's just very fascinating. How are those conversations? And I'm just it's motivating.
Yeah.
When you're around people, that just, they're striving for more and they're excited. You're just excited for them. You're just man, that's really cool. I'm excited for you. Then you start thinking, you're what am I doing today? What? Not that you're comparing yourself, but you're know what? That's what I love about talking to all kinds of people. Whether they are, teachers, they're doing what you're doing, artists, just anyone. I'll talk to a wall sometimes, you know what I mean? I'll talk to my cats, but it's just I love talking to all kinds of people and just learning. Cause you could talk to someone that was in, someone in a nursing home that has lived life, and you just start seeing things different. You see a new opportunity, you see ways that you can help better people, help grow. And it's just, is very inspiring. And so, as we get into Startup Week, that's a big way for a lot of people that are working on their startups to get out there, get in front of people. It's their first time for a lot of them. And so what is STL Startup Week, how long it's been going on, and what's the impact of it?
Yeah. So St. Louis Startup Week is a week-long celebration of everything entrepreneurship in St. Louis. And so that sense of sort of like bringing people together, that celebration is really important to us, and that you have so many different organizations in St. Louis that have their own programming, their own mentorship programs, and they serve a specific swath of entrepreneurs here. But when is it that we get all kind of get together, right, and look
community.
Build that community, look how far we've gotten since the previous year. Because, the entrepreneurship community has had its challenges locally, nationally. It's hard to raise money right now. It's hard to find talent right now. It's hard to just, people post-pandemic dealing with the long effects of COVID mentally, just like people who have been at home, working in their basements on their ideas. Like, where do they go for community, camaraderie, to grab a beer and talk the talk.
Growth
And so I think that's the role that we kind of play. And as I was kind of thinking about this interview, outside of just sort of like the boilerplate for Startup Week, so much about, I think it's this really interesting juxtaposition of entrepreneurship where it's such a like singular ego driven, like, I think that I can do this better, or I think that I can build this product. And I know that I have this innate skill within myself to do that, whether it's like launching a new, media company or a new web company. And so, but what is also necessary is others. And so I found that by working in a lot of these co-working spaces that, like, yes, there are people that sort of, they went in, they clock in, they do their calls and they leave. And some of them will be really successful. Some of them I also noticed too are not distracted by a lot of the happy hours and things like that. They want to talk entrepreneurship versus actually sitting down and doing the actual work. But it is, eventually you'll need to like find a team. You'll need to build relationships with entrepreneurs. You'll need to like be out there. And so like that's sort of gathering pool, right? That watering hole, whatever you call it. That's the role that we can provide for people who are, maybe a little bit afraid. They have some idea. Maybe they don't want to tell their significant other. They don't want to tell their boss or whatever, because they're like, man, is this a stupid idea? Is anyone going to care? And then you realize there's a whole other community of people just like you that are like, wow, like that's a great idea. And also being able to tell you that your baby's ugly. My baby's not ugly. He's beautiful baby boy, but
congrats.
But
we'll get into
thank
that.
you. Very proud of that. And so, and I think those types of relationships, those peer relationships, are invaluable. And so if we can help spark a lot of those conversations during the week, in addition to providing, education, a lot of people are like, yeah, how do I fundraise? How do I build a culture that's inclusive? How do I
find talent?
All these different things that are part of a lot of the talks that we have this year. We've got a great slate. And so in addition to, being for first-time entrepreneurs, I think a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs that maybe like are out of the game for a while, or maybe they have been sort of head down focused at their desks. They're like, maybe lift that up a little bit and come celebrate with us, come network with other seasoned entrepreneurs, maybe see other opportunities, kind of post, hey, if you're going to be exiting soon, or you see life on the horizon, maybe there's a company that's attending there, or a sponsor like that maybe your kind of next chapter.
Yep.
And so we've seen a lot of people that are, build relationships that way and find, it's a great networking opportunity for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's I think one of the greatest things, I don't know. For me, I hype everybody up. I'm like, if someone came to me with an idea like, yeah, I'm going to come out with a flying car. I'm like, oh yeah, you can make that happen. And in St. Louis, like, I'll drive that. We can get it seen by, X amount of people,
sure.
and I can have this person, but it's, it is really cool though, to be able to have that community. And I think, even with like what we do as creators and, what I'm a St. Louis hype man, but people call me an influencer at times. But like, just being able to teach people personal branding, because, before it's just like, if you're just like, people will look through your social media before they even meet you. They'll look through your LinkedIn. Sure. This is what this person's done, that person. And it's, it's like crazy how all these things will go together. So maybe in the future I can work with you guys on, maybe like personal branding and how that's important. It's no longer just using your social media to follow that cousin that says controversial stuff. Like you can cater your feed to what you want, whether it's food, entrepreneurship, things like that. But it's also on the other end, when someone looks up your name, they're like, okay, this person loves food, loves St. Louis. Okay, I know I'm gonna talk. It's like an icebreaker. Like I know.
Yeah, sure.
So when is STL Startup Week? Because it's multiple days, and how does that work? Like different keynote speakers. Is it an all day, few hours? Can people come in just for one event? Can they come for the whole thing? Is it free? Like
so it's September 18th through 22nd, so it's in a couple weeks now. And kind of just describe it as, it's a la carte, kind of like a music festival where it's like, hey, maybe you're into, I know we just had the Evolution Music Festival here, so maybe if you're into Brandy Carlisle, but you're not into Black Keys, I don't know why you wouldn't be into both.
Man. I was into Ice Cube, man. I
go to Ice Cube. So just sort of people can pick and choose. We know that people have different, responsibilities. They have different commitments throughout the week. So it's not our expectation that you have to go. Sometimes you can kind of compare it to a regular conference where it's like, you got to take time off work and you get in a hotel and stuffy ballroom, whatever. That's not how we operate things. So we understand that, if you see a certain session that you were really into, if it's speaking to you in terms of the topic or the speaker, sign up for that. If you want to take some time to like grab something to eat, grab a phone call or something like that, you can come back for other. But in terms of the format, we have 5 different venues, kind of official venues each day. So they are, we'll be kicking things off with Cortex, the Cortex Commons. We've got a block party on Monday. On Tuesday, we'll be at Heydays, which is a pretty new space in downtown West. Wednesday, we'll be at TechArtista U City. Thursday at T-Rex, and Friday at Spark Downtown. So all of our programming, our official programming, is kind of in one location each day, and then it kind of makes it feel a little less stagnant by switching. So like, people that will be there on Monday, maybe we'll see them on Wednesday again, whatever. But they can kind of pick and choose which sessions they want to attend. And then we have some headline sessions there that people should know about. That Wednesday kickoff or that Monday kickoff party on Monday at the Cortex Commons, food trucks, DJ. Beer from Rockwell. Wednesday, we have our kind of startup expo event called Startup Connection, which is an event that kind of predates Startup Week that we're bringing back, that originally was kind of a job fair to help local kind of innovation professionals meet some of the local startups. So we're going to have about 50 companies there from all of the region, mostly early stage startups there to meet potential investors, customers, student interns, things like that. So that's a fun event that we're going to have at WashU. And then we have our closing party at Trust on Friday. So there's just a lot going on. It's going to be a hectic week for me, but we've just got an amazing committee that just wanted to kind of thank them as much as I serve as the ringleader here. Like, we couldn't do it without the team and the volunteers that are putting in a lot of unpaid hours into like the stuff that we're talking about, the belief in entrepreneurs, the power of entrepreneurship in St. Louis, that we are. Maybe sound a little cliche, a little bit from Silicon Valley. I don't know if you watch the show on HBO, but like, we're making the world a better place. I do think entrepreneurship is one way that we in terms of the number of people who can build the wealth generation that can be accomplished through entrepreneurship, the value creation through some of these larger companies that are going on to become our city's largest philanthropists, people like Maxine Clark, and others who have been able to take money that's been generated from their companies put it back. The Taylor family, so many stories of like that they are, whether it's the soccer team that wouldn't have existed, the number of organizations that they individually support through their foundations. It's really so that's, I think, kind of the argument, right? Like, why entrepreneurship, in addition to, and a lot of our Fortune 500s, I mean, some of them have been around for decades, but some of them are going away. I mean, you're seeing that with, Centene, with leadership changes and adding, locations, outside of St. Louis and Missouri, the political challenges here. I think that it has to be a both and. We have to be seeding new entrepreneurs and small businesses that are growing into the future employers and philanthropists in this city, because a lot of the mainstays have changed. I mean, Bonsanto into Bayer, Express Scripts, a lot of the sort of corporate changes, and just sort of the geopolitics of a lot of these companies, they just changed, and that has happened very rapidly in the last 10, 50 years, and the landscape of business has changed tremendously, and we have to backfill with companies that are, and some of them may not make it, right? Like, I know what it's like to plant a new garden, and you get summer heat like we did 2 weeks ago, and not everything makes it, but the things that do can produce and yield results, economic benefits, societal benefits, and I think that's one, I think, arrow in our quiver in terms of the overall, I think, equitable economic impact that we want to have as entrepreneurs in St. Louis. And so that's at a very high level what we do, but I think Startup Week is really more about that personal relationship that people have with each other, and then hopefully that seeds into these larger impacts
of just having that person you can bump ideas off of. That's all very beneficial. And I would say too, like with St. Louis, it's amazing to see, we back a lot of, talking about entrepreneurs, and there's entrepreneurs on all scales. But just seeing what we do, whether it's an art expo, it could be, Tire Grove Farmers Market. Every week you have over 100-something vendors. You see them going from pop-up tents to storefronts to multiple storefronts or restaurants all over the country. Like it's really cool to see. Now, is this free to attend, or if I'm just kind of curious, I just want to see what it's about, am I allowed to come? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so basically virtually all of our events are free to attend, and we do that with the underwriting of a lot of sponsors that we have. We have a lot of great sponsors this year that have helped cover just the cost of running the event, food and beverage, facilities, things like that, excuse me. The one event that we have is paid is that Startup Connection event. It just helps us cover a little bit of, parking, food and bev and stuff like that at WashU. But obviously if there's, ever a situation in which anybody is unable to pay, we can always, make things work there. So that event is $25 to attend, open bar, appetizers, free parking, with admission and stuff like that too. But accessibility is a big value that we have. There's lots of entrepreneurship conferences out there that, $500 ticket, go see Magic Johnson, Gary Vee, Simon Sinek, whatever. I'm hopeful that we're able to get, we not hopeful, but in terms of like those kind of national speakers that will help draw. But we have so many people like you and others that have incredible stories to tell, that are maybe going to be that next, big entrepreneur story that comes out of St. Louis. And if we can provide a platform for them, hopefully that's as much of a draw as getting sort of an A-lister that comes. And you guys are A-listers in my mind, the work that you do. So I think that's kind of been our MO in terms of the type of content, the type of speakers, but accessibility is a big tenet that we have in terms of making things really accessible, easy for people to kind of plop in here or there depending on their schedule and their interest, right? Like not every different strokes for different folks. Not everybody's going to be into every talk. But, hopefully there's something in there for everyone.
Well, it's like, and that's kind of like what the goal of this podcast too. It's like, someone could be listening to this and they're like, hey, you know what? I have this idea. Maybe they just come in and they listen to someone and connect and just grow. But our goal is to like hit everyone in St. Louis in some way, shape or form and help us all grow, whether you do comedy, you're part of Startup Week, you run a restaurant, things like that. So I'm going to kind of shift gears here. I know you love food, and so we're going to have you on Foodie Friday.
Okay.
And so we'll probably just drop both at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
So you guys just listened to his Foodie Friday, actually, in the order of the way the podcast is done. You just listened to his Foodie Friday, so you already know what he likes. You already had the introduction. But one part of this podcast that we like talking to different guests about is, food is this beautiful thing that brings us all together. And if you're at a booth with, let's just say, 3 other people, or you're at a table of 4, it's you and 3 others, who would you have join you and why? It could be famous people, it could be a neighbor. Who would they be?
Yeah. I really like this question you sent over before the cast. And, I was just kind of thinking about there's lots of people in my life that, look at people that, you went to college with, or maybe a friend that, you haven't seen in a while, or somebody you went to high school with. And, there's lots of individuals that be like, hey, if I could had a teleport or whatever, and you kind of bring into a room. But I tended to think about just, people from history, people that, kind of, I don't really follow a lot of celebrity culture. My wife does, and we try to certain people that we follow. I know that I love playing piano. Elton John is like one of my favorite artists, and my mother-in-law was like, "Oh, Elton John has been hospitalized," and I'm like looking up like what's going on with Elton John. It's like, oh, he fell in his home. Like, you know, he's getting to that age where, you know, he had his last farewell tour, and we went and saw him perform here at the Enterprise Center. But it's like, yeah, I care about a lot because his music has meant so much to me. But anyway, it was hard not selecting Elton John, but I tried to pick people from history, mostly people that have passed on. But the three people that I picked were first Robin Williams. So I started to think about like elements of myself that, you know, have really, you know, different. So movies and comedy are definitely, you know, part of my personality. And, you know, he's been part of so many great movies that like our family has watched, you know, over and over again, like Hook. I mean, that's just like a great movie. Mrs. Doubtfire, Patch Adams. He was, you know, the genie in Aladdin. You know, he's just like, he's one of these generational talents that like, I don't think that we're going to see someone like him for quite some time.
And in this day and age, it'd just be completely different. Could be someone on social media.
Yeah.
So it's like literally once in a generation.
And so to me, in terms of why I like invite him to lunch or dinner is just sort of like, I've seen him, you know, outside of like his roles, just sort of talk a lot. And this may have been, some of it was early in life, some of it was kind of, you know, nearing, and, you know, he had a tragic death. Just someone who's generally interested in bringing joy to other people's lives. And I think that we don't really see a lot of that. When you think about, I don't know if you watched the documentary about, it's like, Won't You Be My Neighbor, about like Mr. Rogers, right? Of like someone who is like, he was too good for this world. Like someone like Mr. Rogers, like could not exist in like the society where it's like you have, you know, white nationalists and everything that's going on, presidential politics. And I'm like, look at this, like we both cried in the theater along with everybody else who went to that. Just like, man, this guy just like really cares. Specifically about children, right? And looking at like protecting childhood and just like having a good childhood experience, because that informs so much of what we are as adults, our childhood. So people like Robin Williams, who are generally like bring joy into other people's lives through laughter, through humor, and have just always appreciated his brand of comedy. Sometimes he's really, really dark and really grotesque, but other times he's just like off the wall, like he is in like Aladdin. And I'm like, yeah, he, you know, helped make that movie.
Yep.
So I think it would just be a great conversation with him just throughout his career. I think he was on, I can't remember the interview, but it's sort of like that one with, it's like James Lipton and he asks you like 100 questions.
Yeah.
And you know, he has sort of a format and structure in the same way that you did. And I just remember listening to Robin Williams and really appreciating a lot of what he had to say about life and joy and acting. So I think it'd be an awesome experience. The second one would be Ina Garten.
Okay.
So I'm really into cooking. I love cooking for myself, for family, bringing people together, like you said, bringing people together with food. And there's a lot of chefs that I follow, and, you know, always on like Instagram and Reels and things like that, looking for new recipes. I just find that her just love of food, but also just like her acumen and skill is unmatched.
Yep.
And so she, you know, is the Barefoot Contessa. That's kind of her name. But I remember an episode of like Late Night with Seth Meyers where, you know, he does some of these interviews and stuff where he like basically goes out and gets hammered with a bunch of celebrities. So he did one with Rihanna. So he does with Ina Garten, and man, she can put down some booze and it's a lot of fun. So I think it would be a lot of fun to maybe cook with her. You know, she's probably a lot better cook than I am. I've cooked a lot of her recipes, but I think awesome. She seems like a really awesome person to just like break bread with and to like talk about, you know, our love of food and bringing people together. So
she'll be the one making the meal. That's part of the experience. Yeah,
exactly.
Right there.
Like I'll send her the menu. I want you to make this. Like I'll make her, you know, whatever cocktail she wants, a Cosmo or something like that. So I thought that would be a great, in terms of someone who I really admire from a food perspective and a chef perspective. And the third one is John Muir. So John Muir is, he's this, you know, originated from Scotland. He's a naturalist, founded the Sierra Club. So really into, you know, nature conservation. He's the one that convinced Teddy Roosevelt to, you know, set aside like millions of acres of land for national parks and monuments. So I'm an avid hiker, love to be outdoors. And so just thinking about this guy who's sort of a Renaissance man that really believed that we can learn so much about ourselves from nature and study nature and botany and chemistry, just have a lot of respect. And as you were talking about like past, present, and future, like there is a John Muir Trail, which is like over 220 miles in California, sort of Sierra Nevada, that like I hope to do one day. It's part of the Pacific Crest Trail, which I don't know if I'll ever have the time to do some of these larger trails, especially with the family, but
With a newborn too.
But maybe that's something that I can take my son and we can do part of it or all of it. And so I just have a lot of respect for, I wanted to pick some kind of an explorer type, someone, as you think about entrepreneurs, there's a lot of venturing into the unknown. And, with the trail now, it's well marked. You can get online and, you can get all the... Do your research and, what do I need to take? And you got communication devices, but like he was out there like alone and just, that being on that frontier of really exploring something brand new, tons of risk, and being able to sort of, convince our politicos that, hey, this land is special. We need to set this and protect it. And so I think that's one of the things that I've really admired about not just living in the United States, but being able to be in respect and awe of our nature's beauty. And so that would just having a conversation about like what it was like exploring, but also like what about that land specifically sort of spoke to him deep inside that said like, hey, there's something about this, whether it's religion or God or nature or whatever that you believe in that spoke to him in such a way and moved him. Because I've had those experiences in nature, and I'm sure other people have that just are like, they're out there, it's wild, you don't have a cell phone, you don't have Netflix, you don't have any of these things. It's just like you, a mountain, a river, moose, whatever it is. And I think that the more that we can preserve those spaces, so he was kind of a pioneer in that respect. And I think it would be a really cool conversation to talk about like a real life explorer, right? We don't have a lot of places in America that are uncharted anymore, but someone who was there kind of right at the time of American ingenuity in exploration, and someone who didn't come from here, right? That was able to appreciate what we had in this country and convince then the president and be like, hey, we need to do something special here. And so I think we've gotten a lot, like there's been a lot of fuck ups politically in the last 10, 20 years.
Oil.
And so I'm like, you got the national parks right. That's something you kind of nailed, and hopefully we can learn from that in the future. So that would be I don't know how it all work. Ina's making the meal and we're talking about hikes, and Rob Williams is cracking a joke about
hiking,
whatever it is.
And Elton John's music is just playing in the background.
Yeah, he's with us. He's still with us, and not in spirit, but he's still alive, making music. His show is amazing, and so many classics, and just have a lot of appreciation for musicians too. People that that's kind of another form of entrepreneurship. People that create in their own way, and music speaks to them. He's just an incredible performer, and he's done so much for AIDS movement, just being an active citizen. I think he's probably knighted. If he's not been knighted, he needs to immediately. So he's just a combination of like people that are amazingly talented musicians, but also like have with their platform they can actually make a difference, change lives. And he kind of fits the bill in that respect. So I cheated with 4.
We played it off. Right? Okay. Now before you go, the last bit is words of wisdom. So whether it's someone starting their entrepreneurial journey, it could be someone that could be just going through a tough time in life, and just whatever advice you want to give to somebody.
I mean, like, I'm 37 years old. Like, there's a lot of life, hopefully, that I have to live in terms of words of wisdom. So in terms of entrepreneurs, I think that I remember speaking to a lot of early stage entrepreneurs who, at this point, they haven't developed a company, right? They have an idea for something, problem in society that they say, I can solve this. I have a product or solution for this. And they're almost like hesitant to share, right? Matt, will you sign an NDA? Or like, I'm not sure. So it's either that they were scared that someone was going to steal their idea, or they were scared that like their idea was dumb. And I said, I don't think it's probably neither, right? So I think the advice I would give is to just tell as many people as possible at that early stage, get lots of feedback. But there's a point in which you need to act, right? Like, entrepreneurship, by its very nature, is risky. And so like it's sort of a catch-22. We learn by doing. And so as much as you want to, understand your market and research all these competitors, and there is a good amount of due diligence that you should do to convince you that maybe this is not the right idea for sometimes it's a timing thing in terms of like, you think about, dates back to like the original like Palm Pilot. We don't use Palm Pilots, right? We have iPhones, but like the Palm Pilot was necessary for like the BlackBerry and all these things to come. So like,
Steps.
these stepping stones. And so like, the point is, you just have to act, and you have to act on instinct. And I think the more experiences, the more people you talk to, the more doing and failure you have, that informs and makes you more confident for when you're like, okay, now you're faced with a challenge where like, okay, do we add this product feature? Do we go after this market? Do we expand? How fast do we do all these things? And so I think those are the two pieces of advice of just like, one, just tell as many people as you can. If you're a student, talk to your professors, talk to other parents, talk to other students, talk to potential customers. I helped run an event called Startup Weekend several years ago, where basically people build tech companies over the course of 3 days. And a core part of what we encourage people to do, and a core part of what they were scored on, was like customer research. So like we had a company, a bunch of college guys, and they had an app for like restaurants or nightclubs. Like, oh, we did research. It's like, we went to a club. I'm like, did you just want to go to a club? And then the research came afterwards. It's like, no, we talked to a couple club owners and we got this. Okay, whatever. But the important point was like, they actually talked to people that were going to use their product, right? Yep. It was an app. It was, how do they, is this something that was helping them, a lot of things like, is it saving me money? Is it getting me time? Is it making my job easier? And then the second piece was like, you have to act. In terms of putting yourself out there, it's risky. It feels scary at the moment in terms of like, is anybody going to respond to this? But you can only, think, plan, strategize, research, listen to a podcast so long versus like, you just have to start.
Yep.
And I think that leap of faith is really hard for a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly those like myself that like maybe struggle with depression or anxiety or these other things where they're like, is this going to work? And you're not going to be able to see that until you really, it's a leap of faith, and be able to like get something out there, have people respond to it. And I think most people will be surprised with what they can learn from those experiences, whether it's launching a website, signing a client, doing things that maybe you don't know how to do yet. You'll figure it out. And if you don't, that's why things like Startup Week exists, is that you can find other people that have been there, done that, and that can help you. Like, it's not meant to be a solo exercise at times of like, oh, I have certain things that I'm really good at. You have certain things as a creator and influencer that you're really good at. Sometimes you just have to ask people who have been there, that have trailblazed, and be like, hey, like we're adding 20 staff. Like, how do I get out of my day to day so that I can delegate more effectively? Someone's done that. Go talk to them.
Yep.
So maybe there's some nuggets in there, but those are the big pieces, especially working with early stage entrepreneurs. They tend to get in their heads, but there's a lot of promise. There's a lot of ingenuity, and hopefully there's a spot for you in St. Louis to grow your company.
The worst thing anyone's going to say is no.
Yeah.
They'll be back around later to say yes, right?
Dealing with rejection is a big part of that, right? And it comes with practice of just like the first one is like pulling off a Band-Aid of just like, someone doesn't want it, they say no, or if investor's not going to fund you, say no. And learning that because that person is so tied to that idea that it's part of their identity, they feel like they're being rejected versus like, oh, you're working at Purina and you'd be like, hey, would you want some dog food? No. Okay. Well, maybe my identity is tied up with that company, but I'm not so like ingrained into it that they feel like, oh no, you've started a podcast or you've started a tech company. So yeah, there's a lot of interpersonal challenges with entrepreneurship that we don't really talk about, that I wish more outside of just mental health with entrepreneurs, which I'm very passionate about, but just like, how do we overcome self-doubt? How do we get to that other side and build confidence? And once we have that confidence and that swagger, like, how do you maintain it through just peaks and valleys, right? Ups and downs. Because that's part of it, right? Anybody who says this life is easy is kidding themselves. It's a different life, right? There's freedom on the other side of this kind of effort and the discipline. But being able to dictate your day, being able to work with the people that you want to work with, being able to spend money on the things you want to, not having to go in, to a 9-to-5 that's soul crushing and that you're not sure what impact it's having on the world. These are the benefits. But there's a slog in there that I think people, if they're not ready for it,
they'll be able to experience it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, before I let you go, how can people follow you?
Yeah.
How can they follow STL Startup Week?
So, we're active on social media. So, if you go to, we are on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn is where we're putting a lot of content as well. The website is stlewissstartupweek.com. And there you'll be able to check out all of our speakers, complete lineup. You'll be able to register and add all the different, kind of create your custom schedule, and buy any tickets for those, ticketed events that we have. But, thanks for having me on, and hopefully we'll see you at Startup Week.
Yep. I appreciate your time,
Yeah.
Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.